It's thinking. All right, I want to welcome you guys to the October 18th, 2022 City Commission meeting. We're going to take roll call.
Josh Jones.
Here.
Tim Van Hookie.
Here.
Shane Walker. Matthew Wells.
Here.
Katie Harrington.
Here. Flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lord God, we just thank you and give you praise this evening for all that you are and all that you do. We ask that you surround us this evening and be with each and every one of us. We pray the words from Romans chapter 12, where it says, "Rejoice with those who rejoice and weep with those who weep. Be in agreement with one another. Do not be proud. Instead, associate with the humble. Do not be wise in your own estimation. Do not repay anyone evil for evil. Try to do what is honorable in everyone's eyes, and if possible, on your part, live at peace with everyone." Lord God, we just pray those words this evening. We ask that it be a guiding light that shines unto us, that shows us where to go, what to do, what to say, how to react. We just thank you, Lord God, for giving each one of us wisdom and the ability to do what's best by our citizens, to be good stewards over what has been entrusted into us, Lord God, as we look to guide this city into the future. Lord God, I want to pray over our first responders, the firemen, the policemen, those working in the EMS department, Lord God. Be with each and every one of them. Appoint angels around them to keep them safe. Let them know how much they are appreciated, how much we all value each and every one of them. Lord God, be with our nation. Be with our leaders. Be with our soldiers, Lord God, who protect us. And be with the situation that continues to roll on in Ukraine. We just pray for those people, Lord God. We pray for their hearts and their desires to be free, to cast off the yoke of oppression, and to have a democracy, Lord God. We just want to pray for them, pray for their leaders to make the right decisions. And Lord God, we just ask that you would bring an end to that horrible war. In Jesus' holy and precious name we pray. Amen.
All right, first things on our agenda is the consent agenda. Do you have any questions or comments on that?
Madam Mayor, within that agenda, there is the resolutions are included for unsafe structures. I know that the public hearing on that's not till December 6th, but with your consent, I'd like to ask the codes team, since they're here, if there's anything in particular we need to be aware of on any of those properties that are listed.
Bill, can you speak about that?
No, nothing to be aware of, Madam Mayor and Commissioners. This will be us coming before you with 8 to 9 properties that we'd like to get bids on for demolition before the end of the year. So this is kind of our last push for the end of the year to get you another batch of homes in front of you.
Okay.
My understanding, M, which is 1107 West 6th, that would be what we commonly refer to as the Ice House, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
We want to look at demoing that, even though there are multiple people right now willing to buy it as is.
So, and fair question. I actually had conversation with one such individual this last week, and what I told that individual is that if he went ahead and moved forward with the purchase of the ice house, we'd pull it back on our end, so that, and I think in fairness, to someone like who's looking to, buy that property, we'd give them an opportunity to let the engineer look at it and get a good set of eyes on it before we decide, to move forward. But if it remains unpurchased, as it is currently, it does seem to be a structural hazard, but, more educated eyes would be good.
Well, it's good, and hopefully before December 6th. I mean, that's well over a month and a half or so. If someone is incentivized and says, "Hey, that's off," and they're going to take care of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. But as far as those other homes, we've been directed to try and push as many of those through before the end of the year, so we can get those demoed in a timely manner.
Okay. Thank you, Bill.
Yes, sir.
That was the only question I had on the consent agenda.
Any others? Do we have a motion?
If there are no other questions on motion, we accept the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Josh Jones,
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey,
Yes.
Matthew Wells,
Yes.
Katie Harrington.
Yes. Next is public comment. Just remind everyone, we limit this to 5 minutes. First up is Harold Martin. If you don't mind to state what you're talking about for all the commission, please.
Good evening, Commission and Mayor. I was going to make a comment with regards to the issue you just addressed. I don't even know if it's possible, but wouldn't it make more sense to try and sell those properties as is before demoing them and creating a cost on a vacant lot to try and overcome at a tax sale or in the land bank? Thereby, if any of those properties, and I don't know the properties you're talking about, if any of them are salvageable for whatever purpose, set up some structure where they can be purchased, a time period's given for them to be rehabbed. It might help some of the housing problem we're having in Fort Scott. It's just an idea. I have no details on how to do it. It's just an idea that I think may be worthy of exploring.
Yeah, and go ahead, Josh.
Well, Bob's not here, but legally we have no right to anything on these properties other than condemn if they're unsafe. We have no right to solicit to sell them or solicit people to build them up. I mean, they're not our properties, so we really have no legal right at all to do any of that.
So
there are cases where people come in the case like the ice house that they're talking about here, where someone finds out, and that's one reason, sir, that we give that notification. That notification will be in the newspaper,
certainly,
advertising that there'll be a public hearing regarding this on this date. And there have been times where either they found someone that wanted to buy it, they donated it to the land bank, or just said, and extensions are given a lot of times to people who come in and want to do it. But I think the codes team would tell you that these houses are kind of prioritized and started with what is the most unsafe, what is the most, but I mean, what I like to keep in mind as well is some of them have been out there for years or over a decade next door to somebody that's taking care of their property. And I've talked to a lady before that said she used to love to have her coffee on the front porch every day, but she can't stand to sit out there and see what's across the street anymore or whatever. So I would like to see him saved. I think it's great that 220 South Judson now looks like they're moving forward with that. It's a historical home. But at the end of the day, I mean, they are unsafe structures that it would be great if someone could come in and do it. But I don't want our fire and EMS team risking going into those structures if it's being used for something nefarious as well and putting them at risk.
I will say, to speak on what he's saying and the staff is, there's just not 9 homes out there needing, there's a list of 60, 70, or 80. So a lot of them don't come to us because they do get fixed up or something does that. So these are, these have been going on for a couple of years that codes have worked with. And so when they come here, I mean, I have good reason to believe that codes have worked diligently to try to save that house first. So
Yeah, but the biggest issue we deal with, Harold, is that all of these are private property. So as they stand right now, they are still under the ownership of a citizen in this town or in another municipality. And so we can't, as far as I understand, take the property away from them and try to sell it to someone else. If they give it to us, then we can try to work on something like that.
Certainly.
Or if it falls through the
And
tax
I,
sale.
Yeah.
I would assume that the commission's doing everything they can to work that avenue
Yes, sir.
in order to help bolster the rental and available homes for sale in Fort Scott. As everyone's aware, it's extremely short. The other thing that I want to bring up is I received an email from the city manager regarding a request I made for some records. This was a personal request. And the first email I got appeared to be misunderstanding who was making the correct request, whether it be myself or it be the Lake Advisory Board. So I reached out and clarified that point, that this was personal. It had nothing to do with the Lake Advisory Board, and it was for my own edification. And I received this in response. Please advise when the next Lake Advisory meeting, and I will be there via internet web interface. As a result of this email and conversation, I do not see a need for you or a Lake Advisory representative attending tonight's City Commission meeting. I would hope that that doesn't speak for the City Commission, that they would try to dissuade people from attending this meeting or for voicing opinions or for asking for records.
I'll speak on that real quick because I had a conversation with Jeff before. I think that's a bad thing about text or email sometimes. Miscommunication words. I think what he was trying to say was, if I'm coming to the Lake Advisory, the redundancy of coming there and then you coming here was probably not needed. So if you're asking city staff above and beyond what usually comes there to come to the Lake Advisory meeting and then come back relaying the same information you told him, and I think that's what he was trying to say, and I don't want to speak for him. But.
Okay, and I understand what you're saying. So I'm going to read to you the first, well, maybe I am, maybe I'm not.
I will say this real quick, Harold. Like last meeting, you were here, and you and I talk a lot. You were so to come to a meeting and ask for information, that's one thing. But when you come here and we try to solve issues during the meeting, that's something we shouldn't do during the meeting. It should be
Correct.
Before,
And that's so why I sent that data to you a week in advance.
Right. And so I think what he was saying was, if I'm come to the meeting, let's try to solve it there. Let me get time to solve it before you come to this meeting and bring it up anyway.
Yes.
So
that was the second email I received from him trying to dissuade me from coming to this meeting. And one, fine. Two, that's, to me, that sets a pattern, and I would hope that the commission doesn't condone it.
Thank you, Harold.
Stacy, one, you are on the agenda to speak as an appearance. So do you mind? You can talk 5 minutes now, or you can. Okay, and then we'll just move on.
Stacy Wood. I'm here with the class of 2023. Last year, we requested donation out of the DARE funds for the after prom party. And so I had sent out an email to Kelly and Diane in August requesting funds out of the DARE program for the send-off seniors graduation party. And obviously they're both gone. So I had asked the commissioner, what should I do? And he said, just come to the meeting and request it. So I'm just here requesting a donation from the city out of the DARE funds for the graduation party.
Do you know how much the city has donated in the past out of that DARE fund?
Last year they gave us $2,000.
And I'd make the motion to do what we did last year and to 2,000 out of the what's it called? It's not called DARE funds. The alcohol transient. Special alcohol. Yeah, special alcohol. Yes, and drug fund, which can only be used for situations prevention of alcohol and stuff. And so, yep, I'll make the motion for the 2,000
to match the funds from last year.
Yes,
I'll second that.
Josh Jones,
yes.
Tim Van Hooky,
Yes.
Matthew Wells,
Yes.
and Katie Harrington.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Kate Freeman.
Hi. Good evening, Madam Mayor and Commission. I just wanted to take a moment because we have our wall done, and it's been done for about a month now, so we're very pleased about that. I would like to take a moment and thank everyone involved in the rebuilding of our north wall at 8 North National after the unfortunate collapse and inevitable demolition of the Eagle Block building. A huge thanks goes out to the former commissioners, you all as well, because I'm sure things have been across your desks also. Mark McCoy, the interim city manager, Jason Dickman, the city engineer, Rob Harrington with Bourbon County Ready, and Mid-Continental Restoration, specifically Frank Halsey, Chase Halsey, Chris Fountain, and his crew, who were fantastic to work with and kept us apprised of all situations. All of these people, I mean, there's more than that, but I'm sure that have had to deal, you too, with all things Eagle Block and 8 North National. And I just very much appreciate all that everyone has done, and all the people who have been either on the end of a text message or a phone call from me, or frustration from me, because that tended to happen too. Jason got a lot of the frustration. And so I just appreciate all that was done to save our building. As well as the state for the grant and the city funds to fund the city to save our newly purchased building, because we hadn't had very long. I'd also thank everyone, every citizen in Fort Scott who reached out to us and encouraged us and prayed for us. We're blessed to be part of this community, and we love this community so very much. I would also like the commission to be diligent when it comes to the downtown buildings. Please don't let grass grow under your feet. If there's a building in need of structural repair, hold building owners, including myself, and especially my husband. Please hold them accountable before it's too late for their neighbors. I know there's maybe a few. I see a few that maybe are on the radar. Please keep them in the forefront. I would love that, especially with the longevity of the Eagle Block having problems that I have been aware of after the fact, because I wasn't in town beforehand. I appreciate you all as commissioners and city employees and everyone that's been involved. I know you have a lot on your plate, and I hope you are encouraged by many and discouraged by few, because I can't imagine sitting in your seats on any level. It takes time, and I understand it takes time to right a ship. And I hope you all keep doing all that you can to restore and revive Fort Scott, because we love it here. Trent and I are making this our home, and we're making a business here, and we're so excited to get started, even though we're still in the restoration, but we're getting very close. But thank you so much for all that you guys did. Josh, thank you so much for being on the other end of all the questions and all the comments and all the things that I've had, because I think you've been through the whole thing with me. So I really do appreciate all of you and all of the former commissioners that were involved in that crazy situation.
Do you
So.
have heat yet?
Well, we're getting close. You know what? It's like right there. It's like right there. We got to get some paint on the walls and do some things. So it's close. We're like, I can't say how close, because when I say how close, something bad happens and then we have to push it back. So, but yes, thank you guys so much.
Okay. Lake Advisory Board. I don't see her here.
That was Jim McCoy.
She might be.
Okay. We
The
will.
only thing I know that they were looking for was just an update on the docks. And I don't see Parks here, so we'll go next.
We'll try to get that sent out to you. We can update and send it out to you guys. They're on order. So we're just waiting for. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Old business. Change order number 1. I was waiting for Doug to get up. LG Barris and Sons, the 19,466.01.
Good evening. So if you remember last meeting, there were some questions concerning this, and you had requested that we bring the engineer that approved this and has been working with us and helping us. So we have done that, and he's available to answer questions and concerns. This is Don Lindelman with HDR.
Good morning,
If-
Mayor, members of the commission.
If you don't mind to get up to the mic for us. A couple questions. One big one is, we did not approve this or change order before the work was done. Were you given the okay to go ahead and do that extra work to that without our approval?
So we had worked with the contractor. Our engineer that works with the dams came out, looked at the banks, looked at the slopes, looked at the gabions that were going in, and identified an opportunity to improve the project, provide additional slope stabilization to the project by adding gabions. From that point on, he wrote up language for what we call a work change directive. We provide that to the contractor so that they can set up a cost for it and get that cost developed. And then once we get that cost, we then work to bring this to the commission. And the contractor was at such point that if they stopped at that time, they were going to pull off the project, and they'd have to do a remobilization to come back on the site to go in and pick up and do those baskets. So they elected at that time to go at their own risk in good faith, hoping that would come forward and the commission would recommend payment for that.
Can you tell me what day that was? Do you know?
Off the top of my head, I
Okay.
cannot.
Do you have an itemized of what the 19,000 paid for exactly?
Yes. Did you not have a copy of that in the agenda item?
It was just the change order and then the email that was your explanation.
Okay. Unfortunately, I did not bring that with me tonight. I can look it up, but yes, we had an itemized description of that included the number of gabions they were including. I believe it was about 9, which also included the additional rock that they had to put in the gabions, and it was a pretty fairly intensive labor to get the rock down into the gabions and put it in there.
I know that this commission, as well as the previous commissions, have always been available to make emergency decisions need to make. The paperwork I have shows that the project was signed off for on 9/13. And we were not asked for a change order.
That's probably, is that my signature, Donald Lindeman?
There's your signature and a couple of others, yes, sir.
Yes, and that's, I signed off on that to say that, yes, this is the work change directive. We need to get a cost for that and go. That's just what we send out to the contractor so they can put their costs together for what it will be.
Because we weren't approached about this. The email, of course, that Jeff got wasn't until a whole month later.
Correct.
So that's that's where one of our biggest questions is. 4 weeks went by from the time that you signed off on this to give them the authority to do, or to
Well,
at least give you a cost.
That was correct. That's
This,
to get a
this has
cost.
this has the contract price on it, and this says authorization for work, time and material has been accepted and negotiated to expedite the work. So from what I understand through reading this, and I'm in no way contractual law, that's Bob's field. It's as if this was the approval to go ahead and do the work.
And this is a standard work change directive that we use for all our jobs.
Yeah.
In this instance, the city of Fort Scott does require that work change directive has to be approved, and we told that to the contractor at that time. And in other instances, that change directive then goes to the city manager or whoever it is for approval. You guys have a different step that it has to come to the commission for approval.
So I guess that was one of our biggest questions was, how come a month went by before it was brought to us and the work was done, from my understanding?
I know when I looked at that too, we had originally gotten a cost, and then we asked for an additional breakdown of cost from that. And that was just a number at the time.
And you don't have that breakdown?
I don't have it with me. We do have it, and I'd be happy to provide it to you all. I apologize for not having it here this evening.
Anybody else have any questions?
No.
No.
Or do you just need a motion to pay it or not?
Well, do we want to see the breakdown?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to, when did the cost comes back? When was the work done? And the itemized list are the three things that I would like to see. I mean, I'm not saying I wouldn't pay them, but you know,
We just like to see it
us as
itemized, that way,
commissioners get our
yeah.
asses chewed all the time. And I don't think a lot of people realize what we can and can't do. And this is about the only step we have to hold people accountable. Not you or whatever, but you know. And so when we're dealing with taxpayers' money, we have certain things. Now, if this itemized list comes back and it says 1 Gamian basket and, you know, 2 tons of riffraff or whatever, you know, we're like, why did we just approve $19,000 for that itemized list? And so it's just hard for me to approve it without seeing what it went to, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I would agree as well, because I mean, you can go back to our meeting minutes and the number of change orders we approve regularly. And I don't see making an exception. And those are usually very detailed as far as the information that's in there and what was done. I don't feel right at this moment. I'm not saying that we won't approve it, but I'd like to see the itemized list of the work that was done.
We did get some information, but it's not detailed a lot. It just states when the final payment. Okay. We don't meet for another 2 weeks.
November 1st.
Yes. So if you don't mind to get that in.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say, looking at that he would probably not even need to come back if we can just get the list.
I wouldn't even think you shouldn't need to make a special trip to come back.
I can provide it to you all tomorrow.
Yeah.
Should I send it to you, Michael? So you can distribute it?
I mean, you don't see any problem with the contractor of holding it off a couple weeks. I mean,
The contractor they are at substantial completion right
Yeah.
now. The only thing that I'm aware of they have to do is grass seeding at this time. We had an inspection come out last week and look at everything, and that's the major thing that's left on the project. Otherwise, they have pulled off the job at this point. And all they're going to do is repair any of the substantial completion punch list items that we give them.
if you or the city manager could just relay our sentiments that it's by no means, it's just we have, as commissioners, we have to do our due diligence.
To make sure all our
Appreciate it.
I's are dotted, T's are crossed. Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Just any other, we really would prefer to do these change orders before work is completed with anything.
So I would move to table this until the November 1st meeting to vote for approval after we've received and had time to look at the itemized list.
Second.
Josh Jones.
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey.
Yes.
Matthew Wells.
Yes.
Katie Harrington.
Yes. Next item is consideration of parking fines increase.
You sh-
Yeah, it's on the table. Do we have a list of current fines? What
Currently, the fine is $5.
is that? Repeat offenders also? It's just $5, so they can
Yeah.
rack up 300 tickets at $5 and still be $5.
It's a great deal. You can park wherever you want for $5 all day.
It's cheaper than paying for parking. Yes.
I got thinking last time suggesting a second offense more, but that might be too hard to track for whoever tracks that, Travis or the courts or whatever.
Chief, question for you. I mean, mostly we're talking about Main Street here, and it's. I know that there's been a pretty heavy outcry from the business owners that they do not want parking meters in town. They're afraid that it's going to push people away from their business. Have you done since you've been here any type of parking enforcement where we've ticketed folks for X number of time, and do we have the bandwidth or the capacity to even be able to manage something like this?
We have had parking enforcement.
Well, I mean, I know like against a red curb or in front of a fire hydrant or whatever, but you've done before for like turn
Downtown
parking?
for time parking.
Yeah.
Yes, we have done that. Kind of a history behind that. We used to do that in about 2000, 2002. We kind of did away with the parking enforcement personnel. There was kind of an uproar, the way I understand it, at the time. And we were business owners were parking in front of other business owners businesses. We were ticketing them, and it turned out to be kind of a fiasco. And the signs were taken down. The parking enforcement was then just the ordinances were still always there. We didn't have the personnel of that position anymore, and it kind of went stagnant for 20 years.
So is your opinion, is raising the fee even going to affect? I mean, how do we enforce it now?
Well, we have to have how we enforce it now is we have to have somebody that will be a complainant and say, yes, I know that vehicle has not moved for the last 4 hours or 2 days, if that
And I will say that this came about because there was an individual who was parking in a no parking zone, and the SSR officer was asked to go and ask her to move out of the no parking zone. And the individual informed the officer, go ahead and ticket me. It's only $5. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not moving my car.
Yeah. And I'd heard you say that. I don't know which officer that was, but that and then it is different for a person with accessible parking handicap sticker.
Right.
I mean, they can park for 24 hours.
Right.
So
Do they have to pay court costs right now on the $5?
Bob. Oh, okay. Yeah.
I mean, that's why it's open for discussions.
Yeah.
What direction you guys would like to do,
So I'm assuming this new one will have a fee and plus court costs.
if that's what you
This
want.
way, this one has read.
Mm-hmm.
I think Matthew, you might have recommended like $75 or something like that. I think that's
What is the court cost fee?
a bit too.
Do you know what
too
the court
extreme.
cost
I
fee
don't know
is?
Generally, it's $100.
Bill, would you know, sir?
So on our traffic fines, court costs
costs are $100.
On top of,
With the exception of like seatbelt tickets, which is a flat rate, it's 35, and parking's 5. So there are some exceptions to that. Hypothetically, say on a speeding ticket, you have to fine them out for the violation plus the $100 court cost.
But on parking, you're saying that there is no $100 fee attached to that.
Correct. That's correct.
so we could add court cost fees
Sure you can.
to that.
Sure you can.
So it could make it $105 ticket.
More than 75. That's it.
I'm still in favor of the 170.
Here's,
175 now?
yeah, like I said, here's my only concern. I know the lady did that, but for someone, a single mom and a
Right.
retired person that's down there and says, "Man, I messed up," or whatever.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and I'm sure that being presented to an officer or presented in court, those fees, at least from my experience in going to traffic court for possible moving violations, that when you go in and you talk to the judge and to the officers, a lot of time they are willing to work with you if it's a situation like that. But at least we have something to hold people accountable for,
I know that as this
to
is
try to
written,
put a
it
stop
says,
to the issues.
the way this is written may not be suspended or modified in any fashion by the court.
Yeah, that just provides some teeth.
Yep.
I mean, it's also
And I would rather have teeth instead of nothing. It's a
No,
mulch
no,
cost,
Can we
but
put
someone
that
could-
verbiage in our mowing policy?
Yeah.
it also provides
Because a lot of those don't
consistency.
ever.
Everybody's treated exactly the same.
And I'm perfectly fine with that. I mean,
I mean, that's up to you guys.
I mean, like for me, 75 seems a little excess, but
Yeah.
I'm one person.
would
so
50 be okay with you? Plus court cost?
Oh, now you're at 150. Is there a way of putting the violation fee in there without adding the court cost to it as well? I mean, right now there is no court cost
Right now, there's
for
no
parking.
court cost.
So if we did like $50, but there were no court costs, now it's got some teeth to it,
You could do that.
and they're not going to get hit for $150.
But if we're not going to do the court cost, then I'd like to see it stay up at 75 or 100. It needs to be something that is going to deter people from breaking the law, because as it stands right now, they are perfectly happy to break the law and pay the fine.
Well, I think $50 is a pretty good chunk out of somebody's pocket, especially in Fort Scott. $50 would be a chunk out of my pocket,
Yeah.
but
But we also have court costs associated with it, so we'll be eating those court costs. So then it still costs us money.
well, I mean, what are court costs now? Since there's no court
100.
costs now on a
That's-
$5
5 feet didn't go to court, does it?
So it's
Yeah,
costing us.
We don't have no.
You're not really eating any court costs. Court costs is an add-on. You're not receiving it, but you're not eating anything.
Yeah,
it'll
we
it'll
still have to
stop the
pay for the-
violations.
We still have to pay for the paperwork and the district attorney and whoever the prosecuting attorney is. We still
Time,
have to pay for
people's
that,
time.
right?
Oh, sure, absolutely, absolutely.
I mean, this will stop people from parking illegally.
It will. And it will give, because we have the signs back up downtown. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So we put
Yep.
back up the 2-hour parking
Parking.
signs again, which had been removed.
How about just after 2 hours, your guys put stop sticks behind the back tires? I was gonna-
Block them.
Well, let me just explain why we have to have somebody to complain is because we don't have that person down there that can, even if an officer drives down and says, okay, I see that car, and if, he doesn't stay down there. And so the guy, the person that parks there, sometimes people don't tell us the truth. And they can say, yeah, I backed out. I went somewhere and I pulled back to my parking spot that I parked down there. And when it comes to court time and the prosecutor or the defense lawyer says, can you honestly tell me that car should, the officer can't tell you that honestly they know that car hadn't moved. And so that's why we have to have.
For my part, I'll say this. I just came back from somewhere where they had posted signs all over the place that said $1,750 fine for littering. And I never saw a piece of trash anywhere in that area. And I'm fairly positive it's because of the threat of $1,000 if you throw a piece of trash out your window. So sometimes the fine is enough to make people think about whether or not they want to break that law.
Well, again, though, the only thing I would say in this is, I mean, if you want to do 50 or 75, I'm fine, but I don't want to see $100 court charge put on top of it as well. I do think we do need something, and we need to make sure that, particularly on Main Street, those business owners are aware that you have the power now to call the police and say, look, this car's been here for 2 days, like Chief was saying, or whatever. And, you know, because there are folks that don't get around that easy, that are having to sometimes park a block or two over just to access our Main Street businesses, or people that have kids. And we see it during good old days. You know, we are constantly when they're trying to clear the streets. And
That's the challenge, as well as having somebody call the police department. They don't really want to. They don't want to sign. They don't want to come to court. They don't want to. And I don't blame them. But that's the conundrum we're in.
Yeah.
And so
Well, I think we all agree it needs raised, so we can either debate price.
okay.
I'll make a motion either whatever. So, and I think it's too much, but I'll make a motion to make it a $60 flat fee for parking offense.
Minus court fee.
Minus court fee, yeah, flat fee. So
I would second that.
I'll go with that.
So as read, it's a flat 60.
Flat 60.
Yeah, so this will need to be changed before the mayor signs.
Yes. So it needs to state just the $60 fine,
No court.
no court costs. Mm-mm.
yeah, so basically how it's written now, but just up to 60.
Right.
I mean, how it's the actual law is now. Yes.
So Lisa, you'll just have to pull the one that states the $5 fine, and just put, we want it to say $60 fine instead of just the $5.
We'll just redraft it.
Yeah.
Bring it to make it clear.
Josh Jones.
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey.
Yes.
Matthew Wells.
Yes.
Katie Harrington.
I'm going to vote no because I think it needs to be more. No.
I even gave. I think it's too much.
Nope. New business, planning commission's recommendation for kennel at.
Was there another appearance?
We have a presentation.
Financial
wait,
presentation?
whoa, sorry. I was.
No, the one
No,
below
no,
that.
no. It's Jack right now. I'm sorry. I skipped way too much. I'm so sorry. I've written way too much stuff in my agenda. Thank you, sir.
As Jack is putting this out, you can. When I first came here, I communicated that I was aware, and I wasn't a member of this company at that time, that there are some. I became aware of Baker Tilly, that they can do some financial management and help the organization move forward on some of our financial terms. And I'll let them talk about that. And the mayor asked, well, maybe they could come and give a presentation. So here they are. So Jack, go ahead.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for having us on the agenda and allowing us to speak with you today. We're here to talk about your vacancy in your finance department with the posting for the finance director. Communities across Kansas and Missouri are having trouble recruiting recruiting top finance talent, and so you guys are certainly not alone in that. And so if you all are interested in getting a little creative with your service delivery, this is potentially an option to bridge that gap until you get that more permanent placement. So we're with Baker Tilly. Ben and I are with Baker Tilly Municipal Advisors. We're the third busiest municipal advisor, bolted onto the ninth largest accounting firm in the country. So we've got a lot of financial specialists and a lot of expertise and a lot of firepower to bring to Fort Scott for any particular financial challenges that you might have. Prior to joining Baker Tilly, I was in charge of the budget of the city of Lee Summit in Missouri. I worked in the city manager's office. I also did some economic development roles in Kansas City. Ben Hart is with me, also a director with Baker Tilly. He was the first CFO at the Unified Government in Kansas City, Kansas. and then also was the finance director of the city of Olathe, and was also an auditor in a former life. So between the two of us, we've got a depth of experience and a wide range of expertise, including financial strategy, long-range financial plans, accounting, audit, reporting, all of that. So just to kind of give you a taste, I like to lay out all my assumptions first and then let you know my observations before we kind of do some recommendations about how we think we can help. So I was here 2 weeks ago and met with some of your staff and Jeff and Brad, among others. And so this is kind of what I see and what I've learned. You had a finance director who was very experienced. They left for another position. You've struggled to recruit for that final posting thus far. The full-time staff that you have is talented, but are looking for some additional coaching and mentoring to fully develop their careers with the organization. And then lastly, we were alerted to the fact that your finance staff has identified that there might be potentially a $250,000 shortfall in your general fund at year end of this year. And so that's a pressing task that needs to be monitored and potentially solved. So what do we propose to do with those 3 bits of information? And certainly, you can challenge me on any of those assumptions at any point. So what we propose to do is take on the interim financial director role. That includes the month-end activities and the reporting and communicating with you all on what the status of the city's finances are. Number 2, we'll assist with the year-end closeout and the audit preparation. That's the next big thing on your fiscal calendar coming up. Is you need to get all your financials ready for the audit and let the auditors come in. That $250,000 projected deficit is kind of a big tell that maybe there's additional research that's required on the assumptions that the 23 budget was built on, and so because when you do your budget so early in Kansas, you're using such old information that sometimes you need to update it and take a look and make sure that 23 isn't in a potentially weaker position because your performance in 22 is not viable. So what we would propose to do is to conduct a fiscal assessment and do the city's first 5-year model of the general fund and the utility funds, and propose to you and educate you on what we see as the structural balance of your major funds. Having that tool will help you strategize for your 24 budget and really elevate the conversation for what your financial strategy ought to be in 24 and moving forward. And then lastly, coaching and mentoring for the staff on hand. As mentioned, it's recognized that the staff that you have are talented but are looking for some coaching, and we'll be transparent with them and talk through them with what we're seeing, what we're doing, and we'll bring all the staff in the city along with us on that. Because certainly we like it when we can coach ourselves out of a job, and that we've done that in the past. And then you might be wondering, so how long would we be here? How long, what's the exit strategy for this thing? We would suggest that we would do this type of arrangement for as long as it takes to get a city manager appointed, and then allow that city manager to assess the situation and then bring on their folks. That's how we did it in Branson. That we're in Branson right now. They had some turnover with their key staff. Their new city manager started at the beginning of the month, and then so we've been updating her on what we've been doing the last 6 or 7 months that we've been in Branson, acting as the interim finance staff, and then we're going to craft with her, the exit plan for us. So that's what we see as the potential ways that Baker Tilly can help. If something like this sounds agreeable to you, What we would propose is that, we would develop the real scope, do the real business terms and what we'll do. And then also, whenever that gets presented to you, we'll have recommended a way for that to be paid for. So that's my elevator pitch. Happy to answer any questions you may have and continue the conversation.
Is this an hourly thing that would be billed, or is this a once a month payment?
We've done it both ways. We can do time and expense, not to exceed a given amount. And then other communities, we have it set up more like a monthly retainer where it's the same bill every month, regardless of how much work we do. It just depends on what you're comfortable with.
So would the person that would work with the city of Fort Scott, would it be the same person? I mean, it's not like a musical, whoever is available.
You'll have a lead engagement person. It'll most likely be Ben. He's a little bit closer than me to Fort Scott. And so you'll have that point person, but if there's a specialist that's required for something, we will bring in that resource and you'll have that. But you'll have continuity of staff. It won't be the musical chairs.
Who will do the reporting for daily business for commission meetings and stuff like that? Who would be available?
We can work through that. It very well could be, it very well could be Jeff if he's going to be apprised of the financials as well. It really depends upon the time and expense piece. If you want us down here every single time, we'll build that in, or we'll have a more robust report that you all can look at. Certainly a lot of different ways to handle it.
Also, the reporting of daily business. So if they were having questions on daily business
sure.
stuff coming in, who do they report? Would that immediately go to you guys? How does that work?
Yep, you can email, phone calls. We'll get it handled right away, and certainly you all have an advanced enough ERP that we can remote in and do a lot of our work remotely and not have to do time and mileage down here.
Do you guys have a specialized program that you use for that? Because right now we use Tyler.
Yep.
For that programming.
We're experienced with all of the systems that people use, and so we'll just hit the ground running with the tools that you have, and we're not going to invent a new mousetrap that we're going to have to train staff up on or anything. So it's it's Excel and Tyler. We'll use the tools that you have.
If we have questions, do we have a direct line that we can call and ask, or send an email to somebody?
Yep. There's a red phone that gets installed. Yeah.
We have lots of questions normally. So once you state that, we have lots of questions.
What is Branson? What do you guys charge Branson?
That was not to exceed 180,000. But that's a cost savings from what they had for their personnel staff.
You've been doing this for how long?
Since April.
So have you been doing it longer?
Oh, sorry, no.
So, yeah, no.
Engagement with
yes,
Branson.
yes, no.
Since April.
Sorry.
No,
Yeah.
I've been with Baker Tilly for 5 years working with local government before that.
So you know price ranges. So off the cuff, what do you think estimate wide range would be?
Do you go off the budget? I mean, how do you do that? How do you?
Yeah, so it's gonna come down to what skills do your staff have? What are the things that they're comfortable doing? What are the things they're not comfortable doing? We'll scope that out. We know the salary of the vacancy. We know that what's that budgeted cost, plus time plus their salary plus benefits. So you've got 90,000 to work with as vacancy savings. It's kind of a term of art. But so that's the budget that you have to work with necessarily. But we'll try to craft it such that you get the services, you get covered, and hopefully there'll also be a budgeted savings for you all with the implementation.
So let's say we have a cap of 60,000, not to exceed. What do we do at that point if we have concerns, questions?
I sat through your change order process, and we'll get that.
Well, that's anytime you have an outside contract, that's always a concern. I mean, the flat fee, 90% of the time, the flat fee is not the flat fee.
Yep.
And so once we get locked in, all of a sudden they got you.
Yep,
now, I know Baker Tilly's been around forever.
Well,
Baker Tilly's a good company.
This is a great 30,000 foot
Yep.
snapshot of what you do.
Yep.
You've already been down here and So I'd like to see, to Josh's point, I'd like to see, some hard number estimates of what your recommendations are for.
Yep.
For,
Like the
let's
breakdown.
say we're leaving here in a Cadillac, or if we need to be here in
And
a
a Prius.
Hyundai. if we only have Hyundai money, or what I call champagne money or beer money.
Yep.
What that would be. But I mean, I would be interested in seeing those numbers, if other commissioners would.
We've got, if I can, we've got entities that we work with that is $1,000 a month, and we feed all the information to the staff, and they do all the reporting.
Who follows up on it though? You feed it to them. Okay.
It comes straight from us to them. It's whether it's remote or on site, they have our cell phone number, and we'll let you.
So my thing is holding them accountable and making sure that reporting is done correctly and then it is expressed to us in a correct manner.
Right. It's what we do, what we typically do, at least coming from my seat. You would see me a lot in the beginning because there's going to be an education point for me and for you when it comes to financial information. The question is, are you getting the right financial information? And two, does the public understand it? You guys, as the chief public, understand what that means to you. And then we need to design something, and we typically do, design something that means something to you, that we can track certain measures. And that can range from all different walks of life and all kind of different cities. For instance, the 800-pound gorilla in an emergency situation, you guys are not in. You're in a proactive situation. We can continue with what you're doing. Like I said.
But if you see that not being correct, are you guys able to step in and correct?
Absolutely. Our job becomes making sure that your staff understands what they're doing as they move forward.
I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt you.
Sure.
The mic doesn't pick up very well, so.
So our job is to make sure that your staff knows exactly what they're doing and that they continue to progress in their thought process when it goes to government accounting. That can be somewhat of a black hole, if you will. It's not like for-profit accounting. There's a lot of nuances to it.
Once you have that access though for a city our size, how long would it take you to determine what our current state of the union was?
Shouldn't be a whole lot of time. Once we've got access to data, we've already got your budget.
Yeah.
We can start.
Because I can't see how you can possibly really, give us that budget estimate for what it's going to cost.
No,
until you've looked under the hood.
Absolutely. That's like Jack said. We would get your budget, we get your information, work with Jeff to make sure we've got it all before we ever propose anything to you guys. You're right. You're absolutely right.
So are most of your towns temporary basis, or what's your guys? Is Baker Tilly set up for that, or are they set up long term? Just hey,
we go in as a temporary thought of our the 4 entities we work with right now in Kansas and Missouri in the local area. 3 of them eliminated their finance director position because we were able to train their staff up to a level where they just retained us. Then we gave them half of that salary back and they turned it into a different position. Now others, they hired, in fact 2 others, they hired a position after we've been there for 2 years. They hired a position. We actually went in and made sure that person was up to speed, and then we left. We left with them having our phone number. So that way they could call us and get right back in there. If they had questions, they could call us. It wasn't a fee situation after that. It was just call me if you got a question. We don't want it to fail. We spent our life in public service, and that's going to continue. We just work for a different brand.
What towns are the 4? What are the 4?
So we've got Harrisonville, Missouri, Baldwin City, Kansas. Baser, Kansas was one they hired somebody, and now we're just on a phone call away basis. Branson, what was the other one? Oh, Peculiar, Missouri.
Green Valley.
And Green Valley, that's right. Green Valley.
That's a good town. I used to live there.
We do. We'll also come in for where an entity doesn't really, or a certain finance staff doesn't understand certain items, TIFs, CIDs, you name it. There's certain accounting issues that we work through. We'll work through them with that, and we've got 2 other ones we're doing right now.
I don't have any other questions. I guess like to see the proposal, get an idea of ballpark.
Yes.
And what you would recommend as far, I mean, like I said, I have no heartburn if you want to say, here's program A, it would entail this, here's program B, here's program C. We would recommend, being in this business, program B, program C, or whatever for you guys. And then we can take a look at it and surely ask some more questions as well.
So the idea is that they get with us, we'll work on a scope of services, and then come back with you with proposed fee and where the money's coming from. One of the things that, well, this firm does other things. One, they're a financial advisor as far as looking at bonds and that sort of thing. They also do, when you have an economic development project that comes in and you want to do an analysis of.
We just got a housing study, and we've gotten several analysis done.
An analysis of that, you know, if you had a developer or what have you. One, you know, the other thing is, I've got background in finance, and I've been looking through a variety of things, and one of the goals working, and they alluded to, but one of the goals that I see is that you need some additional reports, financial reports that you can understand, the public can understand, and then you can look at it from a long-term standpoint, so you aren't doing it in the dark. So when you look at the budget, you're looking at those goals, and you indicated that, for example, cash balances, you know, it's very important that you have a policy for cash balances, because that impacts your debt requirements and what have you. The way to do that's one monitor that you look at is your cash balances, but they also have the ability, and it's not rocket science, guys. It's not rocket science, but you need to be looking long term and seeing the impact of your particular decision. And you also need to know, when you get a report on a monthly basis, what that means and how we're doing. And that's not only for you, as they alluded, but it's for the public, transparency. And so I guess the point is I've got background, and they aren't going to do this in a vacuum, you know, standpoint. So the idea again is they'll work on a scope of services and come back with a figure and come directly to you and talk to you and answer any questions you might have. Go from there.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
So next on our new business is the Planning Commission's recommendation for kennel at 205 Arthur. Kimberly Young is here also.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Commissioners again. I'm here on behalf of the Codes Office as the Codes Manager. And what you have before you tonight is an application for a residential property to change its zoning from a residential zone to a commercial C3 or C4 property with a conditional use for the purpose of having a kennel and breeding dogs. There are a number of concerns with this project, and the least of which is that the applicant seems to have already gotten a head start on the kennel prior to your hearing this tonight. A couple weeks ago, the Planning Commission did hear this matter. A number of issues were brought up before the Planning Commission, such as the noise, which is already an issue. As the mayor indicated, we have Kimberly Young is here as a community member who is already being impacted by this kennel. And then if you look at the definitions section of the zoning regulations, which you don't have in front of you, but I do, the zoning regulations place a restriction on the number of animals or dogs that one individual can own absent a kennel license from the city, and that number's 3. At present, is my understanding that the applicant has more than 3, possibly 8, already at the property. At the Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission voted unanimously against granting a kennel license to the applicant and thereby denying her request to change her property tag from a residential to a commercial with a conditional use application. I would respectfully ask the commission to follow suit with the Planning Commission, but also Ms. Young is here to speak, and also the applicant is here to speak as well. And of course, the codes team is happy to answer any further questions you have about this.
Carrie here.
She is right here, yes. And then also Ms. Young is here also.
Perfect. Carrie, I have a couple questions for you. One, you did write us a letter to the commissioners and stuff that you said you spoke with a former dog catcher in regards to the regulations of dogs in town. Can I ask why you didn't talk to the present one now and the codes department about any questions and stuff about?
I spoke to the former one when I was moving to town.
Okay,
That's
if you
who
don't mind
she
to
was-
speak into the mic for us.
She was the dog catcher at the time.
Okay. License figure. And can I ask why you're going ahead and putting up kennels before you got proper licensing and stuff for this property?
Regardless, even if I'm denied my license, I still want a building for the 3 to 4 dogs I'm going to have in town. So it's just a living facility that has heating and air for them.
Do commissioners have any questions? Why in town here?
It's just where me and my kids moved to
Okay.
recently. That's why I had spoke to the dog catcher first to see where I needed to go, but then things changed with her job. Then I started talking to Norm and trying to figure out what I needed to do next because I was kind of just left. And that's when I was told that I would have to send in an application for rezoning in order to be licensed. And unless I was licensed, I couldn't have the 10 or so dogs in town.
I can't remember. Are you licensed?
No, I can't license at that address until it's changed to a Class C. They won't let me with the state.
Okay.
So, Bill, why were you not recommending this?
Zoning committee did not recommend this either.
Based off what they said?
Yeah,
Well, and I
first
think
of all,
there's
based off
some
the-
input
the-
from neighbors and
the unanimous decision of the Planning Commission who heard this matter, but also because of the concerns that there were several people that came to the Planning Commission and expressed concern about the barking and that type of thing. Ms. Young is the only one here tonight to speak against it, but she also has a video that she took which clearly shows the noise level of the dogs from over a block away. So we just don't, I mean, we're all dog lovers in this room, I know that. And we want her to be successful, just that's not the right location for, to have a dog breeding business.
Yeah, I'll tell you that this afternoon, when I got back in town, I did drive over there. I didn't see any dogs outside. I guess they were all inside, so I rolled my window down in my car, and from the street in front, I could hear dogs inside the house barking from the street. Now they were, and going to be, I'm a dog lover. I've got two dogs myself. But I could understand the concerns. If I could hear it on the street when they're inside the house on a cold day, what concerns the neighbors might be. And I would like to hear from the young lady that showed up to express her concerns as well if no one else has
That's
any
fine.
questions.
Hello. Last time I played a video and it was just
Kimberly, if you don't mind to speak into the
Sorry.
mic, I'm sorry.
Can you hear me? It was just a video of the puppies that were out there at the time, and that was standing the block over on the porch. So when the windows were open, that's what you could hear. It's just a residential area, so typically it's a quieter block. And if down the road I would like to sell that house, that's probably not going to be attractive to buyers.
I know that that was a concern with the animal care hospital over on National, was a worry of them keeping dogs over the night. We were promised by that veterinarian that that was something that was not going to happen.
Correct.
It was simply a see the dog and release it. I, for my part, went over and talked to several of the neighbors in the area, and there was unfortunately a unanimous feeling amongst all the neighbors in that area as of the noise created already from the dogs, and they were very disheartened that this was moving forward just from their aspects of living in that neighborhood.
Madam Mayor, may I make one more point, please?
Yes. Go ahead.
The zoning regulations in Chapter 20, subsection 1203, prohibit this kind of thing for a home business. So we have a couple things. We have the definition with how many animals can be legally owned within the city limits. And then does this even fit the criteria for a home business? I just think the totality of the circumstances, the location of this project, again, we would ask you to follow the decision of the planning board. Thank you.
In light of the request of the citizens that reached out to me, I would motion that we accept the Planning Commission's decision
On denying.
this
The
particular,
rezoning.
at this location. Not denying it just at this location.
I second that.
Josh Jones,
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey,
Yes.
Matthew Wells,
Yes.
Katie Harrington.
Carrie, we're not stating that you cannot do this whatsoever. We're just stating that you cannot, we recommend not doing it at this location right now. And mine is yes. Next is consideration of the library board's recommendation for the appointment of Emily Clayton to replace Martha Scott.
Well, first of all, nobody's ever going to replace Martha Scott by any stretch
Yeah.
of the imagination. But they did recommend Emily, and I would make a motion to accept Emily Clayton's application to be a member of the Fort Scott Library Board.
I'll second that.
Josh Jones,
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey,
Yes.
Matthew Wells,
Yes.
Katie Harrington.
Yes. Next is the Christmas party bonuses turkey giveaways. Brad, are you going to talk about that?
Yes. I'll make this really quick. Just wanted to give you a heads up. We are starting to look at the City of Fort Scott staff Christmas party and bonuses and turkey giveaways that has been done the last several years. The Christmas party and the turkey giveaways are within our spending limits, but the bonuses, I will bring you a total and look at what's in the budget to make sure that's okay before we pursue. Okay.
Please.
So I just wanted to.
No surprise change orders.
Exactly. We won't do that. So, but I wanted to at least give you a heads up before we start that process. That's all I've got. Thank you.
And everybody likes turkeys. Nobody wants a cured ham or anything.
We're actually, that's what we're going to do. We'll give a gift certificate so you can go buy whichever. Cause we had requests for that last year.
No tofurkey?
No tofurkey for me.
Next is the interim city manager comments.
Yeah, and Jeff, thank you for sending those out. I
Yes.
appreciate getting those last week. Your updates.
The updates?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only things I would like, unless there's questions on that, is one, I wanted to communicate. I failed to communicate to you that we went to the Kansas Municipal League convention over the weekend, not this weekend, but the before, and got a lot of good information. I saw a lot of old friends and that sort of thing. And in the future, it'd be good if you might think
City commissioners to go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It really is very enlightening. There's a booth and a whole bunch of stuff, but and then down the road, I have communicated to you that sometime we need to look at our boards and commissions and use your boards and commissions. And recently, the Street Advisory Committee is looking at truck routes. We applied for a grant. We'll see if we get it. I thought I might hear about it today, but and I think that's it. Unless, oh, and then we had another comment. We want to look at a work session. You all need to look at a time to do a work session on our streets and some of our capital improvements. So we had some tentative dates, but I think we can do that now. Or
what dates?
Well, I don't have a recommended date. I'm at your will. Or you want to email? And no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Can you?
Yeah.
You can need for just
work session.
Asking for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not business.
All right, we'll do that, but that's coming
We
down
want
the
each
road.
of us to send you dates that would work for us.
Yeah,
And see which
yeah,
ones
yeah,
match
like
up.
the second week, whenever.
Saturday afternoons are always.
Yeah, I know. Thank you.
I think you don't watch college football. This is just me speaking here. But since we have the commission meetings on Tuesdays anyway, I would consider any of those alternate Tuesdays.
That's what
a good day right
when
now.
I was here last
or
time.
even at like 4 o'clock the
Yes,
same day as the
that's what we
Yeah.
did when I was here before.
I know I won't be able to be here till 4:30.
We'll get started. And then
We'll let you know.
Of course, now.
But
Yeah.
so I don't have it. We're looking at November. We've got a commission meeting on the first, correct? So the next one is the election.
Yeah, or that next Tuesday.
4:30 to 6 should be, or even 4:30 to 5:45 should be plenty of time
On the 8th.
on the first.
November the.
Oh, do it before.
do
Yes.
it before the actual meeting.
Okay, that'd be great.
Because we've done that before, and
Okay.
then we're not scheduling a separate day for it.
Okay, and we'll need our engineer, we want to talk about streets in particular, and you may have some
I'll double
other.
check on that because regional soccer's coming up, so I'll just.
So it's football.
I like the November 8th.
The one day.
What are the things,
Probably be on
just on a side note, but your whole capital improvement program and laying that out and tying that into your budget, future budgets, and hitting the ground running on these projects. You know, that's the ultimate goal, but we have immediate thing, do we not, Brad, on some street projects? Yeah.
I don't know if before then, if you can get kind of a ballpark figure of how much money for next year we have to go towards.
Well, we have the budget and we have the cash balances, I'm thinking out loud here, in the street fund and.
Well, we should know how much we had budgeted last year and how much we actually
Yep.
spent this year.
Yes.
And if we could find that.
Yes.
Budget actually.
And in the future, we're hoping for you to have those reports.
Thank you, sir.
So you can, so you're ahead of us.
That's right.
So anyway, that'll work. I think that's all I have.
Engineering updates and comments. There is a consideration of a purchase of a.
No, every time he shows up, he wants money.
I know it.
It's not for me, hardly ever.
Baffle cut curtain.
Hardly ever.
I'm baffled by this curtain that you want us to vote on.
Yeah, so that came in with the packet of information about the treatment plan and the lagoons. And
Is this on top of?
it's
Everything we've already approved, yes.
yes. And so what? And if you read that, and I'll just read it for those that didn't get it. Basically, the baffle curtain would be in conjunction with the aeration system that's going in phase 1. And part of the reason we want to get it in, that way the aeration can be adjusted to work around the baffle curtain. Because if it's not there, we can try to get it, anticipating it'll come, but I think there's still issues to deal with that. And what it ultimately does is, because of where we dump those trucks that bring in the waste, it basically short circuits and skips most of that cell. It just goes down that south wall to the outlet. So what this will also do is force it to move over the aeration system all the way around the far end of that cell back towards the south to get to the effluent.
And this is just for the cost of the curtain, right? I mean, as far as
Yes, I believe
some
the
of
only
the securing.
the only
items that
thing
secured-
missing was the tie downs. We'll have to design the tie downs at the ends.
And then will it have to be installed too, or does this price?
I believe it does include installation. So they'll bring the equipment.
Are you
The only
100%
thing,
sure on that?
Yeah, well, it
Well, it says an installation by JPS crew.
Okay.
Yeah.
No.
so the only thing we got to do is make sure they
And
have
point
the
for
tie
that.
downs in the lagoons, and we can start looking at what that looks like.
End pins
Now,
provided and
Will we
installed
need
by
to
others.
wait until after the sludge is removed before we install?
No, I think because of that being a microbial process, just like with the aeration system, they were happy to accommodate another crew doing aeration, and I'll double check with the aeration guys now, but I think it's the same group anyway that put that together, that EPEC. So
What is the end pins provided?
that's what has to be designed.
That's what we have to provide.
Okay, it says it's provided.
Somewhere it's
Well, it says
It says
end pins
end pin
provided and
provided
installed
and-
by others.
by others. So I need to look at that on our end from an engineering perspective.
If
and
they're
see.
correct.
Because how many, just for giggles here, how many pins are we talking about?
Well, to me, not looking very hard at it, one at each end.
That's it?
You don't have to do.
I don't think we do unless you split them out. So the way that there's a kind of a schematic, but it basically splits that.
But it's going to have to
triangle
be
in half.
installed through the existing sludge?
No, what I see, because that curtain actually goes across the surface.
Okay, so it'll
and
be
drops
above
down.
the sludge
So it'll
level?
come up above the
Okay.
the sloped walls, and we'll have to get them anchored.
And the weight of chain sewn into the bottom of the baffle is what will hold the base of it in place throughout the middle of the living.
Right.
The ballast weight, yeah.
So we just have to get all the schematics and the weights and the forces that we need to account for to design an anchor system. And that's why I'm waiting. You know, if you choose to wait on this, then I'm not going to worry about it as far as the anchors go. But
This does not include taxes and permits.
Tax free.
I think you will get tax exemption
Tax free.
for the city.
Jason, I got a question. You said we could install this while the sludge is in there.
Yep.
Is this gonna break through the sludge and go to where it should be laying? Or will it lay on top of the sludge?
It should drop through it. The sludge typically is not a solid thing. It just settles. So when you got your aeration zones, and because yours are old, generally that doesn't get all the way to the bottom. So that sludge is just kind of settled. So once you start disturbing that, they're going to pull out the old aeration, and that stuff's going to be disturbed and moving around. And I'll double check if there's an issue where if sludge has been accumulating and not moving, it may be more solidified, but I can verify how they deal with that. But again, that's a typical situation when they install these baffle curtains.
Okay, thank you.
But you did say that they could possibly, if we go ahead and just do the aeration for right now, they can tune that as if the baffle will be installed later if we decide to do that.
I believe so.
I only say that because I think the grip pump's more important than the baffle right now because the grip pump doesn't work.
And I don't know much about this, but like I said, the aeration, I mean, a lot of it, this helps direct it. A lot of
Right.
it might not even be.
Helps my microbial stay alive too.
I mean, I know it says 2-year warranty, but realistic life expectancy on this.
I mean, if there's no issues, it's still a 5 to 10 year. And I talked to Mike Rudy, who provided this. He said they've got systems out there that have been there for 20 years. So it's like anything. If nothing crazy happens, it's going to outlast the
I
warranty.
mean, as we talk about this, I'm just trying to keep a capital improvement of what we need to plan for, how long, and everything. So.
Yeah, if it's not an absolute immediate need, that if we don't get it, we're gonna get the smell back again, then, I mean, up to
right.
this point, what we've been told the last 2 meetings was this amount of money plus the addition that we did will have the smell out of here within 30 days. If we don't put this baffle curtain in, is that going to impact that earlier projection?
In the early stage, no, it shouldn't impact that, because what he's doing is, highly concentrated drops of these microbes. So they're just going to be busy eating the sludge, essentially, which is going to increase the volume of water available, which dilution. So that's part of the issue with the smell is it hadn't rained. And
I mean, for this amount of money, I would prefer to wait until, we get a better look at how this year is going to finish financially, before we would vote on making this purchase.
And if we could check and see how solidified the sludge is.
To make sure it's going to drop all the way to the bottom.
Yeah.
Check on a couple of those things first.
And we've
We
got
got a vote for that. You want to go?
I mean, I've done it before. I'll do it again.
I'll go.
I think you say that sludge
No.
moves around pretty easy whenever.
Yeah.
It's not like salt. It moves around. And how many
Typically.
towns do you think use these baffle curtains? I mean, they're pretty common.
Yeah, that's pretty common. And part of it kind of ties back to a couple things. I already talked about the route of the waste stream. And in conjunction with that route, the time that the waste is in that cell is increased, which is a huge impact on, you guys paid for a treatability study by EBS, I think. And one of their big things was how much time in the cells would treat this high load. And it was like 40 some days. So anything we can do to extend the time that it's in the basins is going to benefit in the long term.
And this is just one curtain. I've
Yes.
seen some that are like makes them go in like an S thing.
Yeah.
Or...
So if we recommended curtains in cell 2, which is a very long, kind of shallow cell, but that if we went through all the numbers and said, okay, we need X length for this to travel, we would try to serpentine and get curtain walls to split alternately. And I don't think that's what we need to do, but this is just a big, for the cost, relative to, even the treatment that you agreed to do now at $1 million, 50,000 is not
like
very
how
much.
Once again, I rate and everything, I ask for a tier, like where does this
Yeah.
stand on your...
Like I said, I feel like in conjunction with the aeration and everything else we're trying to do for the long term, I think it kind of falls actually close to the aeration because they work together. So you're going to optimize the route, which also the aeration itself is going to be placed so that it's not interfering with the curtain wall. It's just getting it a longer path. And I think it makes more efficiencies in that aeration process. And that for the price, that I think your benefit is pretty high.
And do we know, I don't think we still haven't sent the letter out to ADM.
And I can
do we know
update.
if they have cut back on how much they're bringing yet, or is it the same amount? Or
the last I saw, the bill from the last month was lower by $500,000. So that's a conjunction of volume. The strength was still about the same, so I think most of that was volume.
so we've already sent out the bill for
September.
September was
Is that about 800,000?
1.3.
No. 1.3 was
So
September,
the next bill
which was probably September's bill.
is coming in at
Bill,
800,000.
okay, so which is still 50%
Above and
higher
beyond,
than
yeah.
a few months before that.
So to me, at this point, and this is just me speaking because I'm not an engineer, I would still say the baffle or the storage tank, if they're continuing to bring us this high,
It needs to be.
the storage tank is more of a priority than the baffle because the storage tank allows us to test and pre-treat before we dump it in.
Correct. But the there's
Lead
lead
time.
times.
Yep.
So by the time, everything that could happen to accommodate this high strength, by the time that's all installed and operational, hopefully we don't have these issues anymore. But
I'd rather get the tank and have them keep bringing us the high strength stuff.
yeah. But part of what we
1.3 million a pop.
right. So we understand the importance of the 30-day notice letter, and I did a draft, and it was kind of directed and to the point. So what we kind of
if
step
I
back.
might,
Go ahead.
Two things. One is, as we communicated to you before, we met with them on October the 5th, and they indicated reasonable insurance that in 60 days volume and strength would be down. We want to continue to talk to them and see what the status is. As I also communicated to you in my letter, is that because of a variety of reasons, we plan to discuss the letter in executive session.
So if the money, if let's say they quit bringing tomorrow, would you still, if we were getting ADM, and would you still recommend this baffle curtain?
Yeah, so you're doing the aeration, so I would still,
They're going hand in hand. Everything I read said they
Yeah.
basically enhance the other.
yes.
Yeah, and we have the funds in there. Yeah, I mean, I would actually make the motion to accept this for the 43750 and move forward with the baffle curtain.
But is it priority over a holding tank and?
Well, the holding tank is dependent upon whether or not ADM
Continues to bring
the high BODs.
Yeah.
And sludge that we receive.
And this is needed no matter what. I mean, most cities, towns have baffle curtains, and they're. I don't know enough about it. I was kind of shocked that we didn't.
Right.
Have one, but already.
It's
so-
just it's a function of in Fort Scott, the volume and just acreage of your lagoons is so large relative to a comparable size municipality that any issue that normally would affect another town would take much longer and have to be much worse, which we've seen now, to cause a problem. So we're trying to mitigate future problems while working with the ADM to find the middle ground.
So
what can they do? What can we do?
Was AMS part of the recommendation of this baffling curtain as well?
No, that's an independent process. So, and I think the main thing on that is there's two main methods. Really, one long-standing method to get rid of sludge, which is dredging. So mechanically, whether it's a boat with equipment or pumps and hoses to get the sludge out of the lagoons. So AMS has, I don't know how long they've been doing it, but their method is still sludge removal, but it's not mechanical. They use concentrated microbes and enzymes to eat the sludge, and it dissipates and goes away to a certain level. So it's just an alternate, and I think their platform, in my mind, based on talking to Bo and those guys, it's a more cost-effective way to remove sludge in their mind. If they can get it to work, like you said, we got quotes for dredging, and it was $6 million. So if it works, again, it's a good deal, but we're still waiting to see. But no, to us, as far as improvements to the plan and the lagoons, there's not a direct correlation, because to me it's not a long-term deal unless it's decided that the strength of the waste that we get is going to remain high. At some point in the future, whether it's annually or quarterly, AMS's system is going to have to be engaged to make sure that you don't get that odor problem.
I'll second Josh's motion.
Josh Jones?
Yes.
Tim Van Hookie?
Yes.
Matthew Wells?
Yes.
Katie Harrington?
Yes.
Not sure if you saw, I did a post yesterday to update everyone on the sludge. The transformers and electrical parts came in yesterday. They should be completed by the end of this week or first part of next week. I did talk to AMS. They will be here right when they're done. So it'll be started as soon as electric is done. And actually, we got a shipment of AMS little labs. It's a little buildings. They brought 6 of them in yesterday, and they should have brought another shipment in today.
Yeah, they'll have 11 total.
11, yes. So things are moving along pretty quick.
Any other questions? I think the only updates really for now, the city crews are continuing to pour concrete at Cooper. So they've got 6 pours left to get to the north end of the intersection of 20th. That's where we've decided to stop. And I've sent information so we can kind of measure off and see where the vertical profile of that ties in with existing ground. We're trying to get it back to kind of where it was, because that's the previous design took it to existing. So we're just trying to get to where there's not a low or a high spot in that once that road is finished. I did the change order for 17th and Eddy, where they're cutting that ditch down Crawford Street. They started that work. They ran into a gas line that was kind of shallow. So I've already talked to the gas company. They're trying to coordinate and get a plan within the next week. And what I'll probably end up having to do is get more time for J.R. Richardson, because they're getting close to their working days being over. So I need to just double check when that is, because I think the concrete work is done down at 17th and Eddy. The curbing was done. The last major item is the inlets and pipes at 15th and National. So if everything works out smoothly, they shouldn't need more time, but I don't want them like they said on the river intake. They're going to get to a point where they're done and want to leave, but we don't want them to be waiting on the gas company to move their line. So it sounds like the gas company is on board with moving it. It's just a matter of getting the gears turning. They got to have their designers decide where to put it in size, because it's an old steel line. So that was my selling point. You were going to replace it anyway at some point. So
The only question I have right now is, where are we on designing or looking at the utilities that are going to be underneath the Horton Street project and the Wall Street project, to see what utilities we can replace and repair when that's all torn up before they start laying the new base and the new roads in those areas?
So Horton Street, we definitely know what needs to be moved.
Yeah.
So we've got a piece of sewer main and some water line. And what we're fighting with is deciding where to put the water line. I don't really like them under the street. I know it depends on who you talk to, but it's easy to access it if it's in the street. You just got to close the lane and dig up and fix a break. But if it's behind the curb, it's cheaper because you don't have to replace pavement. So, but with crock hands, new lines, and the gas company, there's a lot of utilities along
Horton Street from 6th to 8th, it's been replaced. I remember
full
correctly.
replacement.
It's already been
of the
replaced.
pavement.
Were those? I mean, the lines under.
Oh, there was no, as far as priority list goes, between 6th and 8th, we didn't have, and maybe they were already worked on.
I think they were.
I think is what
they
happened.
moved them, and so I didn't know if they were moved. Because before we've always talked about moving to the ditches,
Right.
and I think that's what they were. Because I know there's a closed loop down there, or not closed, on 10th Street also. So when they look at that, we talked about before about
For water line.
yeah, for some reason it was
tying one in.
disconnected.
Yeah, a lot of pieces of water main are inactivated, between valves because of issues, which is why I think that South Industrial Park water line, we've got the 600-foot stretch of main that's shut off that we're going to replace with that project. So we're definitely up to speed on the Horton project. The Wall Street, that still has to go through. I believe that because of the category it's in, KDOT will make you do a selection process for design even on that. So that's something you got to look at.
Yeah. Then my question would be is, did you bring with you tonight the information on the steps for Memorial Hall? Because this goes back, I think Josh had looked it up to like April.
It's been a while.
And
I have not.
to follow up real quick on Tim's, I had somebody reach out to me that there was a grant that the city received for the repair of the steps on. That is not true, correct?
No, that was asked. I think I don't remember when. It must have been the beginning of 2021. We checked into it and found no grant.
No grant. Okay.
I just wanted to verify that. Thank you, sir.
Tell you, a very nice lady that I bought her house from her is right there. The same thing. She you know, people want, there's bingo in there. People love that place. They want to use that place. The city needs to have that resource to use. And I mean, Brad, I think you said you were going out and looking for someone to bid on it now because we're not getting anything back from you guys.
Do you have a scope of work on the steps, or have we went that far?
Not really. Officially, no.
Hasn't it been bidded out before?
The city at some point kind of sent out a letter bid proposal.
When I first came on, someone said it was bid
wasn't
out
very.
before that, but it came back, it was just.
So what needed to happen, my understanding of that original bid, it was not very thorough as far as describing what they needed. So, you know, if we're saying we need to remove and replace all those steps, that's one thing. But there's other issues around the columns that need to be looked at. So my intent was to get a company out to actually look at it, but they wanted the plans. I finally found the plans. We scanned them in at half-size sheets, so it's not great, but I'm going to get them a link to those. They're done with their work at the Pittsburgh City Hall. They're waiting on handrails, I think. So hopefully he's got a little more time than he has in the past.
Jason, could I get a copy of that material when you get it, of the plans? Because I'd like to look at them, see, you know, are we going too far, I guess? You know, what can we do to get those things operable to where we can use them? You know, do we have to go and build a whole new stairway, or can we rehab them and be safe for 5 to 10 years? That's what every contractor around here wants to know. So.
Yeah, and I know that Midco has been involved a little bit. And last time I talked, I think with Chase, and when they looked at them, it seemed like they weren't comfortable with the rehab on it. There was enough bad spots that it needed more than just a rehab job. But maybe that's not 100% of the steps either. So, but I can move that up on my list again higher. But any other questions?
One other thing I've been trying to track down is the water and sewer master plans. They were done by a company called CPI, is what I was told.
I mentioned somebody needs to contact that firm because usually they have records of that, and if we can't find it here, I don't know if that's best. It's probably not best to engineer, and I indicated if you've got the name, we'll try to get it.
We'll try to get it taken care of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we tried.
Did you try?
I think it was the water.
We've got water, but not sewer.
We have storm water.
Right, but so water and sewer.
We cannot find the sewer or the water.
So this on the water, and it could be sewer or it's one or the other. The firm that did a study, which I think had a plan, but it might have been 1997.
That's what I was told.
And what I got from that request was that it was too old, and they don't have it anymore.
There you go.
Which I worked for that firm, so I don't know, but
They're my computers.
in '97.
What about the?
It's worth a try. I mean, it's worth trying again. I mean,
What about the sewer?
and sewer, I haven't seen anything on it. You've got a good database in your GIS that they kind of track conditions, so I think that's how he's kind of helped manage that. Water line's a little harder to deal with because you can't go and camera it and do the things until it breaks. So, other than knowing how old certain areas are.
Yeah, that it was getting the study with the echo or yes.
Oh, I think Bill got they were out and did their
Yeah, a few
thing.
weeks ago. Can you get an update on that?
Yeah.
They're doing a night, they came through at night, and I guess it was
For leaks. Yeah, for leak.
Yeah.
Let's find out what our leaky pipes are.
You said that, and
Yeah, no, it's all in an effort to help us. Speaking of capital improvements and things, looking at what we're gonna do over the next year, it would be great to have a master plan on how we wanna move forward. Right now, we get a leak, our guys are awesome, they're out, they're on it, they fix it, and we move on. But it would be awesome to have a plan. This is what we're gonna do when we're not doing emergency repairs.
I think probably you can't find, being an older plan, I think this thing should definitely, that's the reason we did it. So definitely help us.
Right. I just know we had paid for those plans back in '97 and '99 is what I was told. So just
And I would,
if we can find what we already spent a lot of money on.
When
I'd like to follow one of them if that's cool.
So I'll send Jeff some contact.
Thank you.
They
If he
come up
wants
with great
to.
ideas and plans.
He's got more muscle
Execution.
than I do, probably. So, anything else?
Thank you, Jason.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner reports and comments. Josh, you want to go first?
I don't think I have anything. Brad updated on everything else, the wastewater, so I think that's all I don't have anything.
Tim?
Sure. Had a couple of things real quick. First of all, we had a land bank meeting last night. From the last tax sale, the land bank picked up an additional 36 properties that have come in. I know last year the commission had voted and approved kind of a full-time employee. We've worked with the county for a shared services piece for a part-time employee where the county would pay $10,000. We would pay $10,000. The person would reside actually, they have a spot for them at the county right now, which makes sense because that's where the deeds and all this stuff is. What I've got for the commission to look at tonight is just to take home and digest. It's a job description of that person. There's one item that's missing on there. And to me, it was one of the key ones, which is, the ability to get these titles cleared so that people can get loans on these properties and hopefully start developing them. I've also asked Bob to work with Justin Meeks on the shared services agreement that would exist. And again, we had, I think, around 20 properties in there now with donations. We just picked up another 36, and there's 2 more tax sales coming between now and the end of the year, Justin hopes. So share that with you, Jeff. I appreciate you sitting on the meeting as well. But this was the original job description. It is missing the statement that Justin's going to add in there. And then if no one has any exception to it, I would like Bob to work on the joint agreement, hopefully so we can get something for the November 1st meeting to vote on. This position will be posted. It has not been offered anybody at this time, but it will actually be put out and posted. Brad, you were at the meeting last night. We'll put it out and post it for a qualified applicant for this.
Part-time?
Part-time.
Okay.
Yep. Cost us $10,000 a year and will cost the county $10,000 a year, and the county will provide the area where that person will work out of and the resources, which makes sense because, the deeds and the titles and everything, the records are already over there at the county. So if you've got any questions on this, please feel free to reach out to me or bring them up now if you got them. If not, if we can get something to vote on by next meeting, it'd be great.
Who does this individual report to?
The individual would probably should report, in my opinion, to the city, but that's something that has to be, because it is the Fort Scott City Land Bank.
Here's my thing. Yeah, so just to give a rundown, we voted to approve this budget if the county paid half. They denied it. We went ahead and did the budget anyways, minus 10,000. And I was listening to the meeting yesterday, and so the land bank managers will be housed at the county.
But report to the city.
But report to the city, maybe be on county payroll. So my concern is the land, I'm gonna play this real quick. These are two things taken, one's 9 seconds, one's a minute, 11 seconds. So let me, so this is Jim Harris. So that was Jim Harris. What am I gonna tell the county funding it? So what am I gonna tell city residents when we went to the county to fund it? They said, no, we'll give 10,000, but now we're gonna step in, house the employee, maybe work for us. And here's the other one that Clifton.
Well, that was on the first proposal, correct?
Yeah, this is on the first proposal, and that's the only one we've been.
That's right. And so we need to vote on
Yeah,
this.
so I'm just gonna play real
Yeah.
quick what Clifton said. So that's just my concern is, the county was 100% against it, and now all of a sudden we're forking out the majority of the money.
No, we're forking out half. It's 10 and 10.
So what's the budget for land bank next year?
What we had put in the budget was $100,000.
How much is the county giving?
The county would give 10 for this particular employee, because that employee could also, when he's not working on land bank items, could be helping with the tax sale and other items.
So the land bank is $100,000, the county's giving 10,000.
Yeah.
And the motion we made was Tim Van Hooky move forward with approval of land bank position and to use funds from the sale of the First Source building to fund the position. This is all contingent upon Bourbon County funding half of this position and the total cost. So that was, and they did not do that.
And they did not. So when they did not, then we had to go back and reinvent the wheel and say, what would they agree to?
Right. And
now,
so we made a motion only to prove that on contingent they did it, and they didn't. So when it came back to the commission, what did we decide?
well, without them doing it, we didn't go forward with it.
So how's there $100,000 in land bank next year?
What do you mean?
You made a motion to approve the budget.
Yes.
Contingent on the county saying they pay half of that and everything.
For that position.
That position and all other costs.
Yeah.
Is what the motion, and they said no.
Okay.
So
since then, what I have been told is that from the county counselor is that under this structure right here of a part-time person, that they are willing to do it.
The money we asked them for was $50,000, not $10,000.
No, we'd asked them, I think, for half of 25, because I think the position that we had looked at was
right, but it was
$50,000 total.
But anyways, so my thing is, I was outvoted, that's fine. I want to move forward with land bank.
Yeah.
I'm good with it, but I don't want the county to house them. I don't want the county, I want the county's help, and I talked to Clifton and some of them, so I think land bank's good, even though I didn't agree on the money. But I just think we need to make sure the land bank has control at least. So there's only 2 people on the land bank that lives inside city limits. And you heard what Clifton said, and you heard what Jim said. How am I going to say this to the citizens? So from our point of view, how are we going to say this to the citizens? We're going to spend $100,000, but yet they're going to be housed at the county when the county said we want no part of this.
Well, our tourism director is housed at Bourbon County Ready right now.
And if Rob would say, I want no part of tourism, I'd say
Okay.
that, but, and I'm all for the land bank now, like I said, and told Clifton I was gonna play that because I agree with him, because this is what happened. This is gonna be a, my fear is this is gonna be 100,000. We just talked about being 250,000 short, and now we have a new thing with $100,000, but yet so far it just seemed like the county didn't want to help, and now they want to house it and employ them and everything. So I just, when this is done, I would just like to see this as a contract employee, a city employee, needs housed over here at the city. That's just my thoughts on the.
No, that's good. I mean, and that's the whole reason you got that document to look at tonight, was to get the feedback on it. I mean, because I can tell you, the land bank itself, these are people that are all full-time people working and everything else, and what's strangling us right now is the processes on the back end that have to be done. And nobody has time to do what needs to be done to get clear title on these properties. We have to have somebody that has the experience and the expertise. I think Rob has kind of stepped away from it to be ready. He's like, I don't have time to do this anymore. And so by committee, like I said, the first one came in, the county said no. This is another option that we have available to us, but the city commission as a whole still has to approve it in its final format. So what I'd like Bob to do is put that together. If you have concerns, I would suggest, reach out to the folks at the county. It was the county's suggestion to house them over there just based on the fact that the resources are over there, but they didn't say it's going to be a county employee.
I think if we talked about the first one, and now it got disapproved, it didn't get approved, and how did it not come back to us? How all of a sudden it go to the county? I guess that's where I'm lost in translation. How it came to us, it wasn't approved, and then all of a sudden it's.
Well, nothing's approved yet, Josh. We have to vote on it and approve it. And I made that abundantly clear. If you watched the land bank meeting last night, there were several members that say, why can't we get something done this week or next week? And I said, because there's a process. Well, I don't think we ever put that amount of money in there.
Document we just put out, it shows $79,000 in expenses in land bank in 2022.
I would be curious to see where $79,000 in 2022 is. I don't even remember. I mean, maybe there was. I don't remember a vote for that money. There was no vote to put that in there.
Well, the vote was when we approved the budget document, but
yeah.
And that was my concern when we voted on the budget, because it showed 79,000 this year and 110 next year. But no, I mean, there was
no transfers have been made.
No transfers have been made.
No, but obviously we planned on making transfers. And so, and this is not a bad thing. I'm saying if transfers are going to be made, let's move the land bank so you guys can get started now.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that. But again, my point of caution to the land bank members was there is a process, and the city commissioners have to review this and approve whichever way we decide to go.
I thought the money we've already approved, because like I said, the budget shows 79,000 expenditures in there for 2022.
Well, I don't think there's been anything transferred. I think there was $5,000 transferred. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought there was only 5 that we.
I think there was 5 that we approved and transferred.
Yeah, that was it.
I know originally we talked about the budget, they said 50,000 in 2022 and 50,000 in 2023.
Yeah.
But the original was,
Well, I would just ask, look at it, let the land bank know your concerns. Craig Campbell is the chairman. I think that this is a good plan that could be a cost savings over what I had originally proposed. And hopefully we can work on this together, shared services with the county, and get the land bank wheels moving down the road instead of spinning in the mud.
So the land, you did say establish and maintain a website. Just, are we going to go out and make that website or page? How exactly would we go about that? Would we connect it to county, city website?
It would be connected to the city website, the information.
So it's just a hyperlink added
Yeah.
to that, so that way that
Yep.
information is
available.
available.
So people can see what pieces
Yeah.
of land are up for sale.
Was anybody giving out any land yet?
We have signage on, I believe, 2 properties right now. And we had the signs made up, and I want to give kudos right now to Craig Campbell, because this guy is killing himself out there going to all of these, anything he can go to get the information on. And working with the coordinator down in Pittsburgh and other cities. He's been to Wichita. And I think hopefully once we get, if we approve to get this resource in there, then, you know, Craig's life will return a little bit more back to normal again.
I would say, I'm for land bank. I was just a little frustrated yesterday because all out of the county, and then the first property was being sought after the county, and then they said, well, our minimum's $1,000, and then they said, well, I don't have approval to buy it. So in my mind, I'm thinking, man, they turned us down on helping us. Now they're asking for the first piece of property, then they're saying, well, we don't want to give $1,000. And so I know they're tearing down the house, but I'm just telling you my thoughts as I'm watching.
Yeah, yeah, we'll save those expenses of tearing it down. Yeah.
But it was taxpayers' money when we asked them for 50,000, they said, no, we don't for it. So even though it's taxpayers' money, we are all in control of our budget. So I hope that if anyone else is gonna tear down a house, you waive the $1,000 fee also, not just for the county, as the land board. I'm hoping it's just not waived for the county
Well,
because they're.
we're hoping with that amount of money, you know, the plan was that the goal is we start moving these, and like the mowing fees as well as any demolition, you know, the land bank will be able to self-fund itself. That's the long-term goal. Yeah, but I mean, that is the long-term goal. But to do that, we've got to get the car out of the ditch and get it going down the road. So, well, then Bob will do up the shared services if anyone wants to reach out to the county or to Craig Campbell for any changes or additions to this. Like I said, the one addition that needs to be added to this is for the title work. And then, you know, hopefully we can have something to vote on at the next meeting and get it moving down the road this year if the funding is there. Because everyone last night was like, why can't we do it next week? I'm like, well, because the commission hasn't voted and approved on anything yet. I can't speak on behalf of the entire commission. The only other thing I had was I talked to Chief, I've talked to Brad, I used to talk to Kelly when I was here before, and that I'm still getting pinged by people as well, and I see it every night when I'm down there. The smoking on Main Street, particularly the ashtrays that are in front of the Scottish Rites building, in front of the Loft Apartment building. I think someone said they had actually moved them, and all they did was move them right back. I mean, state statute on this is 10 feet. It says right here, access points of all buildings and facilities not exempt pursuant to subsection D. And then if you go to description of access point, it means the area within a 10-foot radius outside of any doorway, open window, or air intake leading into a building or facility that is not exempted. And that's the KSA standard on that. So, I mean, I don't know, do we need to get rid of the benches that are in front of the building or whatever, what the incentive is, but I know a lot of folks are getting tired of those butt cans that are on our beautiful Main Street.
We could establish a fine for smoking in front of the building.
Okay, the last one was 65. You want to, you know, do I hear 70? But no, I mean, it's just, and I know the previous city manager had reached out to it and got some pretty good pushback on there. But I mean, it's our sidewalk, it's our street. There's a state statute there. So, I mean, if it's in 10 feet of a building, I mean, Bob, can we just take them?
Sir, we don't have an ordinance, but there is a state law that says they can't be there, and they are our sidewalks. Oh, I mean, I think you approach the building owner and say, listen, if you put these out there, you got to take them down, or we're going to come pick them up.
For your reference, if you need it, there's the statute. And again, Halloween's coming up before our next meeting, so I hope everyone is real safe and their kids are safe, and they watch out for the trick-or-treaters when that happens. I tried to take my 6-year-old granddaughter into the Clark Street haunted house. She told me she was brave enough to go, and some guy stuck his face through the curtain in a zombie mask, and she was running down the street saying, I don't want to go, I don't want to go. So everyone enjoy and have a happy Halloween. That's all I got.
Matthew?
Okay. Since he mentioned Halloween, I've had many people ask me, I know this is a ridiculous question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Halloween's on Monday. We don't have any plans to change anything about trick-or-treating in town as a whole entity or anything. We're just going to do it like we used to do it in the old days. Sweet. Halloween's on the 31st. That's Monday. That's when we'll be doing it as a town. People can go out and get their candy on Monday, the 31st.
What are the hours? I could post those.
Ooh, that's a good idea. I would say, what, 5 to 10? Is that too late?
I don't know.
We don't. It's just a.
They go as late as they
recommendation.
want.
Yeah, I would think is if people call in and say, hey, if people do call in and say, trick or treat, really we have no say over it, but just as far as we know, everything,
Turn your lights off outside.
No, this is just as a community. We have a lot of people in town who like to give out candy to the kids, and so we have a lot of people traveling all around town.
I think it's 4th of July, we kind of control when the 4th of July thing is, so people think that, Halloween.
But we could make a. Does anyone have any?
One of the differences is, with all due respect, is that 4th of July is explosives. So it's kind of a safety policing issue, but Halloween is just people come to your door asking for candy, and I'm kind of with the mayor. If I don't want them, I shut off the light.
Put my dog outside.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask that question because I've had people reach out to me, and I was like, I don't think we have any control over it, but I'll ask anyway. So everybody be safe on Halloween. Go out and get you some candy. Next thing on my list was, and I've talked with Jeff about this. I'm going to have a meeting with Travis tomorrow about the current truck routes and the current ordinances so that we can enforce what's on the books while our street advisory board looks into what we can do about updating those and improving our truck routes within the city. So,
good luck.
Good luck. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. All right. Next item was, do we have any idea how much we're spending on the paper we're printing out for all of us to get our nice little packets?
Someone had told me it was like $7,500 a year.
$7,500 a year. Okay. That was somewhere between 5 and 8 was the number that I was given today, but I don't have any solid proof on that. A while back, we had talked about getting iPads so that we stopped printing all this paper.
When I first started,
We did?
first of all, not good to write on.
Yeah.
Number 2, we as commissioners got probably the oldest ones, and as soon as you unplugged them, it was 3 minutes and they were done.
Yeah.
So they were not good. So personally, me, I like paper. By the time you go buy an iPad and then pay a monthly thing, I have asked for, like, I don't need I go through the consent agenda usually on my phone or whatever. I just need the agenda and then any supporting documents.
I do go through the financials. I go by line just to double check.
But one thing we can do.
But would you still be able to do that if we put it on an iPad? Say that we to go through the
it's really
because
it's you got to open and
we talked about printing on both sides.
do double sided. It's fine with me also. Black. I don't need it in color. I don't need.
Yeah, I don't need.
I think we got it in black and white this last time, and it's fine.
Yeah, the only issue which we'll get into in the future about financial statements, the color stuff on the past years. To me, that's the only color that we have.
I mean, I would be happy getting the agenda and a couple other things in a printed form, and then looking at getting the iPads. And if it's a small thing, they've got those big iPads now, the 12 by 11s, and it's just like looking at the paper. You don't have to open it up at all. Just when I saw that number, like you said, what I saw was between $5,000 and $8,000. I was like, a couple people already have iPads, so we would be looking at basically getting 3 iPads.
That much just for us because you don't use a ream of paper, and I bet you could print. If you did one commissioner for a whole year, I bet I'd probably print 2,000 papers per each one of the work. And so I'd be shocked if it was more than a few.
I'll see if they can get me some hard numbers printed on paper that you can look at.
It
It might, and if it is, then I don't want to do it. But if it's gonna, my thing is, if it's gonna save us some money, then I know. Go ahead.
We need to look at where that amount came from. I don't know where that came from. You've got, anyway.
Go ahead. Yes, let's research it and take a look at it. We're gonna do the work session for the roads. So the only other thing I had on my list is love having you around, Jeff. Doing a great job. When are we gonna start looking for a new city manager? How are we gonna go about that? Can we direct anybody to start looking, soliciting, getting applications?
I don't say this publicly too much, but I have started a petition, don't know if it's a good thing or not, about changing the form of government to possibly better form. I didn't have it written the right way the first time, so I don't know if it's the right way or not. So I'd love your guys' opinion on it at some point, whether we go through this once I turn it in. It's 90 days to get the signatures and it has to go. I really don't want to do it if it's not the right thing to do. However, so
The only negative that I've heard to it, the only negative is that pre-city manager, when we had a mayor, and in other cities, the city manager has been able to improve the amount of grants that you get at a federal level over what a mayor can get. I have no idea how it works. Yes, yeah, no, and that's fine. A city administrator, whatever. Yes, I'm fine. I just didn't know with where we're sitting right now towards the end of the year, if we wanted to start this process so we have somebody to possibly take a look at.
Well, I think we'd have to change through the election process, right?
the mayor form.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Or just vote to put it on the ballot, or sign by petition and put it on the ballot. So it wouldn't go on the ballot till next August, anyways.
Yeah. No, I'll look into it and give you my opinion on it. I've heard concerns from people that have heard about the petition. They're like, we don't want to change, we want to change. And I've asked why, and hopefully I'll get more detail from them.
I don't know if it's the right answer or not. I think you have for the citizens to vote.
I mean, eliminate your city manager, though.
We have a city administrator. Most of them have a city administrator.
Yeah.
So you're not really eliminating what it does to me. The citizens directly vote for the person in charge. Right now, the five of us hire Jeff, whatever, and so we've seen how, I mean, someone can be here 8, 10 years. But with the mayor form, the citizens directly, every 4 years, get elect that person that's in charge.
So just technically, it's checks and balances, just like the mayor is the executive branch, with the council is the legislative branch, and then you and I've worked for both. The mayor appoints the city administrator with approval of council, or vice versa. There's pros.
Still runs through the council. Usually the mayor usually just everyone vote. Only on a tie vote, the mayor votes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying one way is right or another, but we went through 2 city managers in the last, and so it's just an option to think about.
Well, I think the dialogue should take place. I've been thinking about that also. I think that the finance director has an impact on that, where we go. They're kind of joined at the hip a little bit, both items as far as.
That's true.
Pardon?
But you still have a city administrator as well, right?
Right now, we're paying 2 city managers. So
next year we won't be paying 2 city managers anymore. We'll only be paying one.
Yeah.
Like the first time in 5 years. I don't know how it's been. Don't quote me on it.
No, we'll be paying a city manager and an assistant city manager /HR/ Yeah, we are.
That dude's doing like 3 jobs.
You have anything else, Matthew?
No, that was. I just wanted to see where we wanted to go in that conversation because of where we are in the year, and if we wanted to start looking for anybody. So mull it over, and then
we may want some sort of work session.
Oh, I'm all about work sessions. Tuesdays.
Tuesdays. Yeah, works well.
So I was
Not Saturday.
It will go to the Haunted Trail this weekend. there was a huge turnout. One of my recommendations for there would be lighting. It was not well lit going down to the trail. That would be one of the recommendations. There was a little smell, but otherwise there was tons of families, cotton candy, hot dogs, stuff up there also. But it was a good turnout. So I thought they may be here to maybe extend it. I don't know. But they are doing an anniversary trip. So otherwise, just lighting down that way. I know that's some concerns, not even for that trail, but other citizens have asked for some lighting down that way. Otherwise, happy trick or treating. Tim?
Wow.
I was Saturday. It was busy. Very, very busy.
If that's everyone on the
Yep.
updates, I'd like to move that the city commission recess into executive session for the purpose of pursuant to the personal matters of non-elected personnel exception of KSA 754319B1. In the executive session would be the 4 city commissioners and the city attorney, the city manager, and the human resources director for 10 minutes, and meet back in this room at 10:32. 8:32. Yes, 8:32. I told you I got eye problems.
Do you want to stay in this room?
We can.
I mean, that's up to you.
That's fine.
Okay. Yeah, there's no way. We'll meet in this room then, and now make it 8:33. We just killed another minute.
I'll second that.
you go. You're the boss when it comes to this.
Move to come out of executive session.
Second.
Josh Jones, Tim Ben Hookie.
Yes.
Matthew Wells.
Yes.
Katie Harrington.
So I'll move that the city commission recesses an executive session for the purpose of medium contract pursuant to pursuant to attorney-client privilege exception in KSA 75.319B2. The meeting will be in this room. The four commissioners, the city attorney, the city manager, assistant city manager, and how many?
5 minutes.
I'd say 5 minutes. So, 8:34. So, opening or resume at 8:40.
Okay. Second.
Second.
Okay. Josh Jones.
I'm going to motion we come out of executive session.
Second.
Josh Jones,
Yes.
Tim Van Hooky,
Yes.
Matthew Wells,
Yes.
Katie Harrington.
Yes. You can guess who.
Yes, they have. I move that the city commission recess into executive session for the purpose of KSA 75-4319B2. In the meeting will be the 4 city commissioners, the interim city manager, the assistant city manager, the city attorney, and the city engineer. The open meeting will resume in 9 minutes in this room. Momentarily, if that's okay, please.
For how many minutes?
9 minutes.
Okay, Josh Jones, Tim Van Hooky,
Yes.
Matthew Wells,
Yes.
Katie Harrington.
Are we back? Move to come out of executive session.
Second.
Okay. Josh Jones?
Yes.
Tim Van Hook?
Yes.
Matthew Wells?
Yes.
Katie Harrington?
Yes.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We did. We're ready to go?
Okay.
Okay. Josh Jones?
Yes.
Tim Van Hook?
Yes.
Matthew Wells?
Yes.
Katie Harrington?
Yes.